Okay, so welcome everybody to the 25th anniversary of the IWN. It's a great writing community, one that I kind of stumbled into. There was a lady named Gloria that saw me at a picnic, one of those things with these guys singing, and somehow she had heard that.
That would be Dr. Gloria.
Dr. Gloria Holmes, okay, thank you. And somehow she found out that I wrote and suggested IWN. And then I went to there's a group that plays golf on Tuesday, and they had a Christmas dinner, and I went to that and sat next to this guy named James Mallory. And from there, I ended up coming to my first IWN meeting and becoming part of this marvelous community. And it really has been marvelous. I mean, most people get to know each other by behavior or having joint hobbies like tennis or golf. But we are a group of people that have actually gotten to know one another through what we write. And just a passion for putting things down on paper and having other people read it, and in some cases, for some of you, hopefully buy it and share it. And just having a community of people where we can talk about what we do and the trials and tribulations and iron sharpening iron and making each other better writers is something I never thought I would find. I thought that was over for me when I left work as a tech writer, and where people just screamed at me, getting steps wrong, you know, the power supply can't come out, you didn't unplug it. So this has been a dream come true for me. So thank you for the people that started this 25 years ago and have continued it to this very day. And a lot of them are here, people like Robin, who is a literary activist par excellence. And,
That's nice.
you know, well, I got roped into meeting this guy, Ethelbert Miller, who referred to himself as a literary activist. And I said, oh, that's really cool. Maybe I could be a literary activist. But I'm not, but Robin really is, because she's all over the place doing stuff for writers.
Ethelbert knew James Baldwin, for example.
Well, yeah, but you know.
Yeah.
I saw his movie. But people like Miho, who bought Ethelbert here as a speaker, and it's just been great. Carrie, who we worked with to get youth to write, and we did a writing contest during COVID somehow and pulled it off. So that's all things that the IWN has been doing. And we say we champion writers, and we do that by championing each other, as a community does, really more like a family. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Henrik, who is the mastermind of researching. And he's going to spend a few minutes telling us how we got started here.
Sure. Thanks, Eric. So interestingly enough, that's our president, Eric Johnson, our fearless leader at Island Writers Network. So back in July, I was doing a little bit of research, and I looked on the Island Packet, which is our local newspaper here, and I found this article because I was just Googling Island Writers Network, what can I find about it? And it said, Writers Workshop to hold first meeting, a new fiction and poetry writers interest group will hold an organizational meeting, 7 p.m. Monday at Barnes & Noble, right here, at this location. Participants will take a survey to see how they would like the group to proceed. For more information, call Joe Williams at number. Joe Williams, we couldn't find her again, sadly, but this was in the Island Packet, Friday, October 22nd, 1999.
Wow.
So we are officially 25 years old now.
Wow.
Now we can drive and drink and all that stuff. And have cake after this. But I have the article. I can email it to you if you wish. That is the original article, and then shortly after that, we had I looked up where did we meet after that, and the following was at the Heritage Library down the street, literally, like you could walk here from there. Anyways, that was near the Harris Theater, which probably doesn't exist anymore, but that's a different issue. Yeah, and that was still run by Joe Williams for a long time. But to Eric's point, this is a gathering of writers, right? Regardless of whether you write fiction, poetry, or anything else. I happen to be one of the few non-fiction writers I know. So I'll cower in the corner after this and continue writing. But we encourage each other to, because we champion writers, we write whatever we want to write. Back to Eric's point, it doesn't matter what we want to write. We write, right? And we encourage others to write. And that's what's the whole point, regardless of the potential censorship or other things that we might encounter on occasion, where we can write anyways, because we have the freedom, literally the freedom to write. And we can exercise that muscle, this one, aside from the hand muscles on occasion, or the typing muscles. But we have the freedom to write, so we would encourage you to do so at any point in time. And we meet monthly to do that. And we have a nice calendar on IWN, HHI.org. And feel free to take a look at it at your convenience. Did we want to read some of the segments from our latest anthology?
Well,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I could read. What I'd like to read is the back cover.
Sure, yeah, come on up and read the back cover.
Yeah.
Since you amongst other of the teammates have worked on this so tirelessly. I feel free to bring up those individuals as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Henrik. Did James ask any of you to read?
No.
Good.
Where
Okay.
is James, by the way?
That'll make this quick.
Where is James?
James.
James is at church, probably singing.
Eric, you did ask me to read some stuff from.
Oh, good.
others,
From
historic others.
perfect. Yeah. So I wasn't going to read anything from the current one, although most of you have probably heard some at open mic last month, and Robin read from it at our Wednesday's Poetry and Patron. She read one of the ones that's in here. But I did want to say, and Sharon can back me up on this, this is an incredible labor of, I guess it's love. And, you don't, aside from all of our contributions that went in here, there are a ton of photographs and that were curated and placed where they belong. Some of the photographs were taken by writers who also took pretty good photographs to go with whatever they wrote. And it also had to be organized. There are a big section on the contributors that had to be collected and placed in here. I think the table of contents, even though the book designer did a marvelous job, I believe the table of contents and the list of books list of stories and poems had to be done by hand. So this is like a work of art. And in addition, the book had to be organized in such a way that made sense. And so I'll pass it around as long as you promise to make sure Billy gets it at the end. But it's got shifts, and there are lists of stories or poems, alterations, rebuilding, evolution, variations, renewal. And that organization came from Robin, who it would have taken me a year to sift through the 54, 56 files of stories to come up with all that, but thank you.
That's the difference between a technical writer and a high school English teacher.
Right, yeah. I could have done a good index, pretty good index. But
Yay.
one of the things that James had to do was make sure we had a compelling back cover that people would read and say, oh boy, I gotta buy this anthology. And we got a famous writer to do our back cover, and I'll read part of it because part of it is obscured by the not for release banner that wraps around the cover of the book. But it says, like the Low Country, each of the short stories and poems in Sea Change weaves its own kind of spell on the reader. With distinct and diverse voices, teasing here, tugging there, and sometimes delighting and pivoting on things in the shadows that haunt the margins of our lives, this exceptional collection succeeds in delighting readers far from our beloved shores. And that's only part of the back cover. You'll have to
That's
buy it to
beautiful.
read the rest. Yeah, isn't it? And that
Fantastic.
was written by John McElroy,
All right.
the award-winning author of Whatever Happens, Probably Will. And that volume is included in the 25 greatest short stories of all time by Forbes.
Number 8.
I had a Hemingway. Yeah. So I said to James, you got to put the Hemingway thing, but he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
So if you have a chance tonight, take a look, thumb through it, but you can't keep it because Billy needs it. So
Order 15 copies.
but yeah, order as many copies as you like.
I have an order sheet.
And Billy has the order sheet. So if you want to make an order, as you're giving the book back to Billy, place your order.
When
Okay?
does the final come out?
The final will be out soon, like November,
Okay,
probably at the November meeting.
okay.
Yeah, right now we're
You mean
collating.
Monday?
Yeah, Barry just emailed me.
Yeah,
so he's
November the
Yeah.
4th, I think.
Monday, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, but I don't know that for sure. But that's what it's. We're all but finished. I think Sue Harris and Barry Dixon are going through it just to make sure,
Oh, cool.
doing
Last minute.
that last check. So
There's no difficulties.
that's right. That's right. So with that, I will now bring up Robin.
Robin.
Yay!
Robin, it's so good to see you. Oh, it's so good to see you.
I told everyone you weren't going to show up. So that's a nice
Oh,
surprise.
well, of course I would show up.
You thought you were going to.
This is Marilyn Lorenz. She predates me by a lot in this organization, and is responsible for a lot of the cover choices that were made over the years with Norm Levy. So if you haven't met Marilyn, meet her. She's a wonderful writer, but she also does a lot of writing that involves plays, and she puts them on at the Cypress, and had told me that she had opening night tonight. So,
And, well, it's next Thursday. It's called What Now?
what now?
Can you think of any other title that would be more appropriate for this year?
And what now? What if? I don't know. So I feel like an imposter up here because I'm not that far back in the organization. I showed up in 2011. And so I was asked to talk about the history of the organization, but I don't go back that far. So the first thing I wanted to do, when I arrived at my first meeting, and of course, like many of us, the first person that we spoke to in entering the Island Writers Network until last year was Sansing McPherson. This goes back to, she was one of the original members. And once the other key people on the board went their merry way, Sansing took a real ownership of protecting this organization and making sure that it would thrive. So she was always the person that you met. For various reasons, including that I had a 180,000 word manuscript that I was never going to be able to sell, all my teaching stories, I Googled on a Saturday night the Island Writers, a writing group, Hilton Head Island, and up pops the Island Writers Network. And I see Sansing's email, so I email her and say, I see you have a meeting on Monday. Back then they called it the open mic, but it actually is what we now call the open workshop, where you can bring something, read for 5 minutes, and get gentle critiquing. And I asked, can anyone come? And she was like, oh yes, we'd be so excited to meet you, and yada, yada. You know, she was just like so welcoming. Please come. Please be sure you introduce yourself to me when you come in the door, all of that. And so I showed up that Monday night and read 5 minutes from the chapter. And I, as best I can remember, Norm Levy was there. He ran it. He ran it up until about 4 years ago. And I think of all the members who've critiqued me over the year, I miss Norm the most. Norm had a way of getting down to the exact thing you needed to know about what you'd written. He was just a brilliant man. And Tom Crawford was there. I'm guessing that not many people in here knew Tom Crawford, but Marilyn did, and Jim Riggs did. Because guess what? Jim Riggs was sitting there that night. So you guys think that I've been in this organization longer than, no, Jim's been here longer than I have. He just stays under the radar because he doesn't want us to make him do anything. He just wants to have fun. And of course, Sansing McPherson was there and came up and introduced herself to me right away. Sit right here, you know, the whole thing, you know, Sansing. And Greg Smorrell, I don't know if you remember him, but until Phil took over as treasurer, he had been the treasurer for years and years and years. In fact, Sansing used to say, you know, we can lose the moderator, we can lose this, we can lose that, but we can't lose Greg. Nobody else can do that job. So when Phil showed up, I said, he's a CP. He does math. There was a gentleman named Kelly Dykes. Do you remember him? He, I think, still lives in Bluffton, and I think he runs a auction house now. But he wrote 3 novels set on Hilton Head in the 80s. And then just, I don't think he ever wrote again. But he used to show up, and his critiques were amazing. He was really supportive when I started writing poetry, which was interesting. There were 2 Canadians there that night. Canada used to show up from January to April. Catherine McNamee and Sheila Gale were there that night. Bill Newby was there that night. He predates me in this organization. Bobby Hahn, who now runs By Hand Inc., she used to be writing. James Edward Alexander, I don't know how long he's been in this organization, but I know it way precedes me. He was there. Marilyn Lorenz was there. Norma Van Amberg was there. Gene Utz was there. I don't know if you knew Gene Utz. He was a very taciturn man and used to give really fun critiques. I think Jim used to be in his critique group, correct?
Sure.
Your breakfast?
We had breakfast together.
Yeah, we had breakfast. Will Anderson was there. Will Anderson was one of those people that like is really smart. Like he worked for NASA, that kind of person. And he was writing sci-fi. Yeah. And he didn't trust computers, so he drove an old car that had no computers in it. He was one of those guys. Yeah. And Jane Hill was there, who is still a member, still relatively active. So that's who was there that night and heard the first thing that I wrote. And really, I mean, I think like most of us, the first time you show up and read your stuff, you're just wondering like, is this something I should even be trying to do, or should I just stop right now? And you know, so they were very encouraging. And yes, championing writers. From the very beginning, I felt very supported. And I was completely unpublished. I had just retired from teaching. So this is Reflections. This was the 2019 anthology, but this crew decided at some point that one thing they should do as an organization was create these collections. There had been, in fact, the third one had been published literally 2 months before I showed up that year in 2011. So they had already done 3 when I arrived. And the reason that they chose to do these collections was to give new writers some understanding of the whole process. So, you know, when we're arguing with our editors and telling them they don't know anything about what we're trying to write, we learn that maybe we ought to listen to them, and that maybe they do have the power to change our words and we ought to just try and like work with them. And we learn about layout and how our poems may not look the way we wanted them to look, and we learn about all kinds of things. So it's a really good exercise for us, I think. So this particular volume, interestingly enough, because Reflections is, I think, the 6th one? 7th one? I'm losing count. 7th one? This is when they finally decided to do this dedication.
Yeah.
Dedicated to Joe Williams, Catherine Wall, and Vicki Hunnings. And Catherine Wall is the name you might recognize because her books, she did a whole series that became very successful, and she's been in bookstores for a long time. Who recognized in 1999 the potential for a vibrant community of poets, essayists, novelists, and other writers on Hilton Head Island, and current and former IWN members who have kept the founders' dreams alive for the past 2 decades. So they finally acknowledged that. But in this, you know, I always try and poison people to writing poetry.
No kidding.
And so this was a proud moment for me because I was her editor for this. But in this volume, Sansing McPherson decided to submit a poem. And because the title of the anthology was Reflections, this poem really was quite a beautiful choice for her to submit. And I just want to share it because Sansing was pretty special to this organization. Lights on water. At night, who knows what lies within the grass? Midnight green could harbor crabgrass, bottle caps, glass, mysteries cloaked in darkness. Only in the day does someone envy greener grass further away. At night, across the lake, twinkling jewels glitter, danced by breezes across a rippling ballroom, conjuring fantasy, a yacht club dance, a palace ball, the green light on Daisy's pier. Come dawn, the shoreline view shows time-worn wood, peeling paint, graffiti, fading, misspelled signs, suggestions of forgotten brawls. Feral cats skulk in the alley, mangy vagabonds hoping for fish heads. By day, some tread the weeds with closest caution, smell the fish fry grease across the lake, wish for a brush to amend mistakes. But some live by night, cushioned on the midnight green, bemused by winking lights on water, finding a world daywalkers miss.
Ooh, beautiful.
That woman could write. So when they asked me to do this, I started to look at all of the dedications. So this is Time and Tide. This was actually the 4th, and I was one of the 3 editors on this one. So I just want you to hear that, Eric. On this one, there were 3 editors. Yeah, I had no idea what I was getting into. The arguments that I had with Gene Utes because I drew him. Oof. Oh my goodness. So this one was dedicated because the Island Writers Network anthologies could not have succeeded without the selfless contributions of key people. We dedicate this anthology to Lori Getz, IWN Moderator 2006 to 2012, for initiating and managing production of our first 2 anthologies. Norm Levy, IWN Open Mic Moderator 2005 to 2015, for nurturing every reader's creative work and providing startup funding for our first anthology. Jane Hill, for her countless hours in tech wizardry in producing our first 3 anthologies. And Tom Crawford, IWN Moderator 2012 to 2015, for his enthusiastic leadership that grew the IWN membership and set an example for marketing prowess. Tom is the moderator that resigned, and I was elected to replace him for the following 2 years. And in this one, there's a bit by Norm Leafy. Norm was, as I had mentioned before, a really interesting man. He either came from the CIA or marketing, I'm not sure which. The man had been everywhere, and like he didn't answer questions like completely thoroughly, so you never quite knew what he was up to. I bet you do. I bet you know things.
He was
but-
director of advertising for
Yeah.
Procter and Gamble.
For Procter and Gamble for years.
Yeah.
But in
Worked for the CIA.
this zone, when I met him, he had found Twitter. I guess it's now not Twitter, but
Yeah.
he had found Twitter, and he really liked the discipline of the character limit in Twitter, that you had to write and get a message out in that number of characters. And he was really good at it, and he was really funny. So he did this thing, and he had this for years with, I think, eventually 10,000 followers, called Rhymes for Our Times. It probably still lives out
Yeah, it's
there.
probably out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless his family knew his passwords, it
Yeah.
lives out there.
Yeah.
But this is an idea of what he did. The theme in this one was food. Small bites, real headlines, well-versed. Can finishing a big bowl of ramen noodles make dreams come true? This is from NPR.com. Eating ramen here is seen as a path to personal fulfillment. Some customers write their dreams down and hang them on the restaurant's walls. One reads, skydiving. Another, 1 month without sugar. Most are written in Japanese. The challenges of life are oodles, but there's always the comfort of noodles. He used to always close out the open workshop with his stuff. It was so fun because it was, it was always funny and light, but it was based on real headlines, and he just had a really dry look, and it was completely like nonpartisan, and like he wasn't making comments about the right or wrong of something. He was just making the wry comments on here's what humans are. I found him a lot of fun. And see, I was going to talk about you, so it's good you showed up.
I even brought a book.
You did?
Yeah.
Yeah. Marilyn, I know, was responsible for this title and this cover along with Norm. They always used to kind of listen to us and then just kind of do what they knew was going to work, because both of them had experience in advertising and marketing and that kind of thing, and the rest of us don't. By the way, I bet you would respect, this is Anne Willie's marketing genius. The Scoot stuff, you know why that's marketing genius? Her books go in these boats that her husband makes in the basement because he's handy. And because the boats are so cute, she just gives bookstores a boatload of books, literally.
Okay.
And they can't put them on shelves. They have to put them somewhere prominent. So look where they're sitting. Scoot sells.
Yeah.
Scoot sells. I mean, Scoot's delightful anyway, but the marketing of it is brilliant. So Marilyn's one of the, in the beginning, she was one of the few poets around. So I think that's why she and I connected once I started doing that. But the poem here gives you an idea of the kind of work she does. Sycamore gold. Branches of incredible brilliance enter the sky, each curling leaf a burnished treasure, rioting. Never possible on an artist's palette, such Roman gold and verdigris, improbably married by the sun. My little dog sits colorblind, puzzled, waiting for a signal to go on. He cannot know I am remembering young days spun in sycamore gold, the riches of long ago, so precious and gone. Yeah, this lady can write also. I think the best thing about this organization is the fact that we're surrounded by so many really talented but very different writers. It enriches us to hear what everyone else is doing, and really adds. This is Ripples. This follows what I just read. This is dedicated to Sansing McPherson and Marilyn Lorenz. Beacons for those toiling to become better novelists, poets, essayists. So that was in Ripples. And the last dedication, this was an ebb and flow, was to Elizabeth Robin, whoever she is. Yeah. This is nice though, because the thing about this organization also is that you always seem to notice what other people are doing and praising them for it. And the comment in my leadership, enthusiasm, and networking that firmly established IWN's presence in the arts community. Because of course, fun story, first thing I was suckered into, and I'm choosing my words carefully. Tom Crawford, who was the moderator when I showed up, did everything. I mean, a lot of the jobs that exist now exist because when I took over for him, I was like, I can't do all this. I need help. I need more officers. So, but one of the things that Tom did was sit on what was called at the time the Arts and Cultural Council of Hilton Head. Their function was to establish an Office of Cultural Affairs on the island and get a director for that office. That was the sole reason that committee existed. And Tom hated it. He hated sitting there. He hated the whole experience. He didn't understand why we were there. It was like, and he goes, just come with me to a meeting and just tell me what you think. And yeah, suckered. Just totally suckered. So I ended up sitting on that committee for IWN before I was the moderator, during the moderator, after the moderator. Somehow or other, Miho just pulled me back into the arts committee. Yeah, I can't seem to get away from them. But it's a wonderful group, and they did establish, as you know, the Office of Cultural Affairs. But IWN, the reason I'm bringing this up, IWN was one of the 5 original members of that organization. We've been working with the arts community from the very beginning. So when you see the collaborations that we get to do with musicians on the island, and where Natalie hands us grant money to bring in poets from out of town and all the stuff that we do, IWN earned that. So.
Yeah, the poetry.
Oh,
trail.
yes.
Yeah, poetry trail. Really special.
Yeah, there's this project. We're going to have merchandise now that Bill's out of the hospital and home, so, yeah.
Good.
Yeah, so we're going to get that back going again. But yeah, the Hilton Head Poetry Trail would probably not have happened without the support of that group. And ironically, now it's something that they are seeing as a real asset to the arts that are celebrated on the island. So it's been a win-win for us. So I'm more than done. I always talk too long. But yeah, you want to talk about championing writers? This crew's been doing it for a long time. Thank you.
And loving every minute.
Yeah. So what did you bring?
Oh, I just brought the last one, Ripples. I don't even know what's in it. We'll see.
Something's in it.
Well, so many things from all of us.
You want to speak on the mic?
You want to get up on the microphone?
I'll bring the mic.
Let's see.
Bring the mic to you.
Let's see
Bring the
what's
microphone. I'm
in
just
here.
going to try and get off the step without falling.
What's in here, kid? I know
Robin, did you
Barry
listen, or is that
has
too low for
stuff
you?
in here. And his is always fun. Let's see what mine is. Oh, hard sell, 83, let's see what that is. And maybe, I can't read that one. Okay, so, 83, let's see. Who knows what it is? I've written so many poems. That's the problem. If you live long enough, you write way too many poems. Okay, this is called Hard to Sell. The poet's burden is unreasonable. Too great for intellect, too small for fame. A brazen, presumptive, imperious game. Each lonely line, each posed word finds truth elusive, lies absurd, with soulful longing, passion torn from pieces of the poet born not of the will or thought sublime, but simply of the need to rhyme. One simple message parsed in time.
Oh, that's awesome.
Thank you, Marilyn.
You are welcome.
Anyone else want to say something, Jim?
Go,
Some
Jim,
parting
go.
thoughts?
Oh, excellent, you're gonna make Jim do something.
Yeah. It took me to do it.
Yeah.
That's because we've known each other for so long.
Yeah, there's some faces here that are older than other faces, and
Hey.
if you stay around for a decade or so, you get to see them, you get to hear the words coming out of the mouths, you get to hear brilliant writing, amazing stories, fantastic poems, so hang in there, you young people.
Okay, that sounds like a fitting benediction. Hang in there, young people. Go with young people.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess now we are ready for our cake cutting, which is in the other place.
Don't scare me, there's gotta be somebody here that's good at cutting.
So